Folks, welcome to an all-new episode of So Bad It's Good. This is your pal Ryan, and this is your Wednesday episode. Oh my God, you guys. We did it. We made it halfway through another week. Today doesn't count. So Wednesday, the next 2 days, that's all you have to get through. And if you're at work, you can just coast these next 2 days. I give you full permission to coast. If any of your bosses come up to you, say you're not working hard enough, say, Ryan Bailey, So Bad It's Good, has given me full permission to coast, and I will deal with your boss. I'm not good at getting back to people, though, so just let your boss know it might take me a second to answer any messages that are sent my way. How are you doing? Are you okay? Are you good? It's 9 o'clock Wednesday night. No, 9 o'clock Tuesday night. Time means nothing. It's a flat circle. It has been a very long day. I'm excited to be talking with you guys. It's just going to be us today. It's just going to be me and you. I need a silly episode. So we're going to do the Bailey Mail. We're going to go through a bunch of news stories, and then I want to delve into the world of Bravo literature. In celebration of Sheena Shea's New York Times best-selling book, My Good Side, I'd like to take a moment to go through all of the Bravolebrity au revoir, all of the books that have been written by Bravolebrities. We'll do that. We'll do a bunch of pop culture stories, and then we'll just be on our merry way, and then come back Thursday for another supersized The Valley recap of the reunion part 3, which is the final episode of this season. Do you feel like, oh my God, I just have to get through tomorrow, and then a weight is lifted? And yes, I will be sad, because it is still somewhat fun. Oh, I'm going to take that back. It's still something to talk about this show. And I love that we all commune talking about this show. But my God, the psychic headache I get from talking about these people. And did you watch part 3? It was horrific. And Jax wasn't even the most horrific part of it. All along, all season long, you have Jax right there. And they did their best. And they did it so damn well about being horrifying themselves. And you had an easy, it was like the season 11 of Vanderpump Rules, when it's like, you have Sandoval right there. All you do is bully him for a season. That's all you have to do. And instead, everybody got into fights with each other about talking to Sandoval or not. And that was the same thing with this season. We could have put a lot of loving pressure on Jax, really trying to make him know the error of his ways. You know, the cast should have made him know, not Bravo or the production company not letting him on season 3. They should have let him know, his fellow castmates, that what he was doing was just repugnant no matter which angle you looked at it through. So yeah, congratulations. We did it. We made it. And I just think it's so interesting because they had shot the reunion so early compared to other Bravo reunions. And they're going to start filming here in a couple of weeks. And so they really haven't had a lot of downtime, a lot of time to decompress and maybe think, you know what, maybe we all should be friends. Like, I feel like they are probably just as angry now with this airing tonight and all of the discourse that will be surrounding this by us. I mean, it's not like the outside world, but it's just our little small community. And they're going to carry that anger into the first week of the Valley. As a producer, which I am not, but I would wonder if that's one of the biggest pressures that the producers of the Valley have to deal with, is usually you want things to simmer down a little bit before you start back up. And I feel like we're starting at a 10 already. So all you can go is up instead of downshifting. I could be wrong. I hope I am wrong. My God. But like we said all season long, the Valley has never been fun. So if all of a sudden they're like, let's play volleyball and let's have a fun volleyball day, we wouldn't buy it. We'd be like, no, nobody wants to play volleyball. I don't know why I've used volleyball as an example, but you know what I mean. We've had an interesting week of shows thus far. Monday, we had Sophie Ross, and we had a cameo with Jenny J. Wow Farley from Jersey Shore. And by the way, this is on the audio version. I realize on the YouTube version, in fact, I don't even know if this part will make the YouTube version. The YouTube version is usually just the interviews or certain news stories that we do. So if this does make the YouTube, just know that with the audio version, you're getting a little bit extra. And that's not a slight. It's not something that I'm done to like punish anybody. I mean, if I was truly trying to punish you, I'd make you watch the YouTube videos completely the whole way through. But that's just also, I've said this from the very beginning, and this shows what a Luddite I am and how, I guess, a dinosaur in some ways, is that I have always been in love with radio. I've always been in love with the audio format. And podcasting was that. I mean, it was like the redheaded stepchild of radio. And now with podcasting, it has become, weirdly enough, a video format. And yes, we try to do as much video as we can. Maritza does a great job over there on the YouTube. And she handles all of that and lets me just do my work. And I put out the audio version. And, you know, there is still so much room to grow, but this was primarily set for, you know, I always just thought of this as an audio thing. And now it's like, you got to be flipping George Lucas or Steven Spielberg to do a podcast. And you got to cut up all these clips. I mean, it's just insane. And I'm like, I want to bitch about Jax Taylor. So I don't even know why I started talking. Anyways, it's been an interesting week of shows. That's what I meant. Oh, yeah. Is that we cut up the Jenny J. Wow Farley. I don't even know if that made it to YouTube. Because, you know, like I said, I try to keep this instrument pure. And so if I'll find myself, if I go to the YouTube or if I'll just go down a rabbit hole and I'll find the one thing that's said really negatively. And I'll be like, that person gets it. Because that's just how I've been wired since I was a very little kid. I don't even know. We work on that in therapy sometimes, but I do not know why I'm wired like that. But I'll see the one negative comment and I'll be like, this person gets it. This person gets me. This is what I should focus on. And I want to just be able to be me, for better or worse. And then Tuesday, of course, we did a big Taylor Swift studio album 12, everything that I knew last night. I really went on a rant about that. And then we had Sherry Papini. And it was a very interesting day. Now, I think I said this yesterday. And if you listen to the interview, thank you. I got so many nice words about it, even though I really, I don't do anything for applause, as that might be shocking to you. I do things because there is a hole in me that I'm trying to fill. And every day I have to try to fill that hole, and it never seems to be filled. This is actually turning out to be kind of sad, this sad opening. No, I was really nervous about, I mean, I usually go towards things that make me nervous. And I have tried to stretch myself as an interviewer, and I did go back and forth on Sherry Papini. And in fact, if you're on the Patreon, I think I talked openly about going back and forth. And I had so many people, and I think I even mentioned this in the interview in front of Sherry, so many people that were like, oh my God, you got to do that interview. And oh my God, you shouldn't do that interview. And if you know me, if you've been listening to this show for even just a little bit of time, I would hope that you would understand that I am a very feeling person. And I think sometimes, like I said, that can be a strength, and sometimes that can be a huge weakness, because I just sit there and worry about everything. So I had watched all of the documentaries about Sherry Papini. I read her book. I definitely had a certain way how I viewed things. But I also wanted to see what that would be like sitting across from her and hearing her story from her. And there was a lot of trepidation even after I finished the interview. I thought about it because we did this last week. I thought about it all week. I thought about it through the weekend. And I still go back and forth because obviously if you listen to the interview, a very nice person, very pleasant. And, you know, some people will be like, well, that's her MO. That's what she does. That's her playing you. That's this, that's that. Sure. But what I will say, and I'll use a really bad example, is like anybody on Bravo. When you start to know these people, or you start to talk to them in real life, and that's why I strongly suggest that you don't, is whether they're good or bad, or they've done something really good or they've done something really bad, when you talk to anybody, there's some sort of natural empathy that I think most of us extend somebody. And if you listen to this show, you know that I'm not some sort of attack interviewer. I do try to not humanize people, but I try to find some sort of entrance point where they can feel comfortable talking. And whatever information that came out of that interview, and what I had told her was that, whatever she says on any of these interviews she does can be used against her or for her at some other point. And that's why I keep saying in the interview is I don't understand why you're doing any of this. I don't understand. What is the point? What is the point of doing any of this? And that's a question that I'm still wrestling with. And I can really twist myself into a pretzel thinking all about that. But it was great. I mean, it was good in some ways, and I got so much positive feedback today. Positive feedback that I didn't think I was going to get at all. I put that out last night, and my stomach was in knots. And this, and it was, but I got negative feedback. I got negative feedback also more from people that didn't listen to it, which I understand, because if you already have a feeling I always say follow your bliss. Don't do something that's going to upset you. So I understand that. But I'm not trying to justify what I did. I will, I did the interview, and I would probably do the interview again. And it was a great learning experience, because if something like that is offered to me in the future, I know more now what to think about, or really kind of to weigh all of the options out there. But for what it was, I think it was handled well. We handled it decently, and I'm glad it's out there. And like I said, she was a very nice person. That does not mean that she is completely innocent of everything. That does not mean she's completely guilty of everything. It's so hazy to me still. And I think the title of her docuseries, Caught in a Lie, is such a perfect title for her story. And I guess the question I was even left with was, what exactly specifically was the lie? Is she still lying? Is there truth that she's telling, but she's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, where we will always potentially just assume she's lying? There are so many thoughts that I have about this. But anyways, I just wanted to talk about that up top. I'm sure I will talk about it more, and I'm sure I'm going to talk about it more on the Patreon as well. I think we're going to do another Q&A episode this weekend. So Patreon members, fire away at anything that you have for me. But I wanted to say that up top. I never want to disappoint my audience, but also my audience, you guys have been pretty great about allowing me to stretch myself and try new things. Now, this is definitely not a true crime podcast, nor will it ever be a true crime podcast. And I was talking to somebody that made a great point about true crime podcasts. And I don't know if I would necessarily consider Sherry Papini true crime, but there is that intersection of criminal activity and pop culture that I spoke about in the interview as well. And sometimes we'll talk about it when it hits that pop culture zenith. But mainly the great true crime podcasters are primarily women, and should be women. Women should be talking about these stories, because most of the time, I would say 8 out of 10 times, it's men doing things to women. And so a man's voice sometimes is not going to be the best voice in that arena. And it doesn't mean I can't talk about crime. It doesn't mean we can't visit that from time to time or do a special episode on the Patreon. But that made a lot of sense to me. And I don't know if you guys have thought about that as well. But it sure made a lot of sense to me. But as always, thank you for allowing me to go in spaces that intrigue me and that kind of pique my natural curiosity. So, okay, can we get to the fun? We'll do a commercial break, and I'm going to get my attitude right, and then we're going to get to the fun, I swear, okay? Folks, we are here once again to talk about our good friends over at Quince. I have so many amazing pieces of clothing from Quince now. In fact, I just got this gray zip-up hoodie, and I got it in a size large. I was wearing an extra large. Health journey is going great, but that's not what this commercial is about. And also, I have Quince sheets. I am sleeping on Quince sheets every night, and it is amazing. So why drop a fortune on basics when you don't have to? Quince has the good stuff, high-quality fabrics, classic fits, and lightweight layers for warm weather, all at prices that make sense. Everything I've ordered from Quince has been nothing but solid. Quince has closet staples you'll want to reach for over and over, like cozy cashmere and cotton sweaters from just $50, breathable flow knit polos, and comfortable lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed up dinners. The best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands. How do they do this? By working directly with top artisans and cutting out that middleman. Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. So, keep it classic and cool with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/sobad for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/sobad. Go to their website right now, folks. You're going to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/sobad. You know what doesn't belong in your epic summer plans? Getting burned by your old wireless bills. That's why I made the switch to Mint Mobile. I use this. You should too. And for a limited time, Mint Mobile is offering 3 months of unlimited premium wireless service for $15 a month on the nation's largest 5G network. I mean, the sound is pristine. So say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages because Mint Mobile is here to rescue you. Like I said, all plans come with high-speed data, unlimited talk and text delivered on that largest 5G network. So, this year, skip breaking a sweat and breaking the bank. Get this new customer offer and your 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month at mintmobile.com/sobad. That's mintmobile, mintmobile.com/sobad. Upfront payment of $45 required, equivalent to $15 a month. Limited time new customer offer for first 3 months only. Speeds may slow above 35 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Taxes and fees extra. See Mint Mobile for details. Join the fun on DraftKings Casino, ranked the #1 online casino experience. They've got everything you've been searching for. Thousands of exciting games, huge jackpots, exclusive offers, and more. New players get a 10-day welcome offer. 500 spins on Huff and More Pup when you play just $5 to start. So, download the DraftKings Casino app, sign up with code SOBAD, and spin your favorite slots. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. 21 plus. Physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. New customers only. Non-withdrawable casino spins issued as 50 spins per day for 10 days. Valid for feature game only and expire each day after 24 hours. See terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends 8/24/25 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. #1 based on Eilers and Krajcik 2H24 product analysis. And we're back. So on Tuesday night, they filmed the Love Island Season 6 reunion in New York City. Get a rope. They filmed they filmed the reunion and it is done. I think they wrapped around, midnight. If I'm not mistaken. It was a long day because I think their call times were 8 in the morning or 7, something ridiculous. Now remember, this is being hosted by Andy Cohen and Ariana Madix. I cannot wait to see how they work off of each other. Now, there was a lot of rumors throughout the week that Hutto was not going to be at the reunion, but she was at the reunion. And a lot of people were speculating that was because on the Las Culturistas award show, Red Carpet, Andy Cohen was asked by an outlet about Love Island and the reunion, and he said Hutto's going to have a lot to answer for. I didn't think it was very ominous, his tone at all. And Andy, Mr. Cohen, he really does this great job at being able to kind of walk that middle line. He is truly a professional. I've always said I just love that dude so much, and I know I'm always shocked when people do not like Andy Cohen because I'm like, do you know how many personalities you have to be able to juggle to be able to do what he does? I am just a fan of his work. But he said that on the red carpet, and then it was speculated that Hutta was not going to be there, but she was there. The only thing else that I've seen so far is that allegedly Ace and Jeremiah got into a screaming match. But yeah, it's a reunion. I expect many people to get into screaming matches. I just want to know all of the Casa Amor people, like all of the periphery characters that were only in it for like a couple of days. They're all there, and I'm like, is everybody going to get their attention? Is the attention economy going to be at maxed? Is going to be completely maxed out on this? So this reunion, I don't believe airs until August 25th, and it's August 13th. So that means, if I'm just doing remedial math, I think that means 3 weeks away. No, it's like 12 days, right? So we will be covering that on So Bad It's Good. You know what it is, though? I've said this, I was so excited that Love Island is over for the season, the USA version. And I think the aftermath of that, and I think this really is just my age, is I just keep getting reminded about how famous we've made these people in a short amount of time. And I think that is so, so dangerous. For us, sure, but for them especially. I mean, just think about like having at the height of Lindsay Lohan's career, even though, God, Freakier Friday just came out and that did really well. I mean, Lindsay Lohan we're definitely in a Lohanaissance, and I'm all for it. She looks amazing. Acting is top notch, and I want the best for her. But at the height of her career, it just led her down such dark paths. And these are all still young kids. And when you are giving them this sort of celebrity, because even you think about like Britney Spears celebrity or Lindsay Lohan's, any of those, it was like the beginning of social media and what it could do. You had to deal with like Perez Hilton and Defamer and Delisted, but you didn't have it at the kind of rabid pace that it's at now. And TikTok wasn't around. And I think I'm just the fall off from this for some of these people. I get genuinely scared. I mean, I get scared for the cast of The Valley. I mean, I even get scared for Jax Taylor. Like, what the fuck is Jax going to do? And Jax has been doing this for 13 years. And I know we shouldn't have to worry about that stuff, and we shouldn't have to worry about that stuff, but sometimes you do. But these people have been made so famous so fast. I mean, Hutta has what, like 6 million Instagram followers? That's insane, you guys. For a 6-week show, that is insane. And I found myself enjoying the show, but then being able to kind of wash it away very easily and quickly. I wasn't able to do that as much with season 5. For some reason, season 5 resonated with me a little bit more. But season 6, I was able to kind of be like, put that to bed. And I'm like, okay, well, write a book now, do a movie, write a song, do something that actually stands the test of time. And I guess I was having this conversation before we went live at Jeff Lewis today on Sirius. We do this like pre-show meeting, and we were just talking about that. Is in some ways, this podcast is sometimes me screaming of like, look over here, look at this cool thing somebody made. And look at this cool thing somebody wrote. And you want to keep reminding people that that's what we should try to really appreciate is the art in people. And yes, reality shows can definitely be art. But sometimes the reality stars themselves are not up to artiste level, if that makes sense. And so I feel like we give it away so cheaply and so quickly, our attention. And for me, I'm like, okay, but what else do you have to offer? Because I just want it to be more than TikToks. And I know I'm feeling my age this year more than ever before, but I want that. And I mean, I want to talk about this point more, but I want to play you this thing from Andy Cohen. He posted this on his Instagram stories tonight, and this was at like 9:30 p.m. New York time. This is what he said.
This reunion, it's good, and everybody's here. So and I'm having so much fun with Ariana. She's amazing. And you know what? I like hosting a reunion with her. It's really fun. So anyway, Daddy needs some coffee or something.
So that was Andy Cohen with a brief message at like 9:30 that night, and they had been going all day. But I loved that he said, but this was very, he's just very democratic and, just like, oh, no, I love working with Ariana, which I'm sure he does, and very gracious because she is the host of this and hosted the reunion by herself last time. So I think he's going to be really good at finding ways to work together. But of course, Andy, he's like a circus master. The worst seasons of Housewives, I've heard him at reunions going, this is the most amazing thing that you are ever going to see. And then it's like, they have it's like the Real Housewives of Dallas reunion where 3 of the people were on like big screen TVs. Do you remember that during COVID? And it was like, oh God, but like everything is the best with Andy Cohen. Like every season of OC of like, I've seen some of the episodes and you guys, you are in for something special. And then it's not the case, but God, he's a great salesman. So, speaking of what I was just speaking about, though, of making celebrities way too quick and reminding people that there is this art to it, I was thinking, where I do a lot of my deep thinking on the toilet, and I was thinking about Cameron Crowe. Cameron Crowe, the director and writer, you might know him as the director of the movie Almost Famous or Jerry Maguire, but he also wrote the book that Fast Times at Ridgemont High, the movie, was based on. And I'm going to tell you the story of that in a second. This is going to be a little bit of a history lesson, but I was fed this post that he actually has a book, his kind of a memoir of his career coming out. It's great. Sorry, I'm just looking it up on Amazon for you guys. Cameron Crowe, don't worry, I'm just typing something in. It's called The Uncool, and it comes out October 28th, and I can't wait for this. It's called The Uncool, a memoir by Cameron Crowe, and it says, the long-awaited memoir by Cameron Crowe, one of America's most iconic journalists and filmmakers, revealing his formative years in rock and roll and bringing to life stories that shaped a generation. And I'm like, I'm all for it. I love Cameron Crowe. And we're going to go through his career in a second. I'll put a timestamp if you don't want to hear about Cameron Crowe, but I think he's worth talking about because his history is just amazing. Now, a little known fact about me was that I worked on the movie Jerry Maguire when I was a kid. And it was the coolest experience because they shot in Arizona where I was going to high school. And I worked with the extras casting department. And I've said a couple stories through the year. Like I said a story, a couple weeks ago on a pod, because I remember on my birthday being on the Sun Devil Stadium field, and I was like eavesdropping on a conversation between Tom Cruise and Cuba Gooding Jr., and they were both talking about their kids. I think Cuba Gooding Jr. had a newborn, and Tom Cruise was like, oh my God, aren't kids amazing? Because at that point, they had just, I believe, adopted 2 kids, him and Nicole Kidman, or in that same time frame, if I'm not mistaken. Memory's a little blurry. But what was so cool about that was that then we went to LA for the summer. And it was great because I was in school, but I was in summer in LA working on movie sets, and I was working with an extras casting department. But I got to go to the Jerry Maguire wrap party. And a wrap party for a film is like after the film is done, you go to a bar, it's like free drinks, free food. And it was a place on, I don't think it exists anymore, but it was on Cahuenga Boulevard. And Cameron Crowe used to be married to Nancy Wilson, and Nancy Wilson is part of the group Heart with her and her sister. You know the band Heart, right? But he was married to Nancy Wilson, and I just remember I was not of age, but I was being fed drinks, and I was on top of the world, you guys. And I remember it was like karaoke too. Now, Tom Cruise wasn't there, but Cameron Crowe and Nancy Wilson were. And they sang Suspicious Minds, the Elvis Presley song, together. And I just remember, because I was a film geek, even as a kid, and this is pre internet as we know it. You know, like this, I mean, I think this is like pre-cell phone. This is like, I remember I got a beeper around that time, and I was like the last person to get a beeper. But I just remember watching Cameron Crowe sing Suspicious Minds with Nancy Wilson and going, I've made it. I fucking made it. And then I got really hammered, and I broke a folding table outside. It was very embarrassing, but what a summer that was. But Cameron Crowe, I knew him because I was a huge fan of the movie Fast Times at Ridgemont High. But also what we're talking about and what this podcast really celebrates is being uncool, right? Is that I think I've spent so much of my life wanting and trying to be cool. And I think still to this day, there are moments where I'm like, oh, I wish I was cooler. I wish I was this. I wish I was this. And then, you know, as you get older, you get a little more settled in and a little more secure and going, hey, I am fucking uncool. I am uncool. It is okay to be uncool. Celebrate being uncool. And there is this great scene in the movie Almost Famous, which Cameron Crowe wrote and directed with the amazing, one of my favorite actors of all time, Philip Seymour Hoffman. Rest in peace. This dude was just such a fucking fantastic actor. He was an actor when I was trying to be an actor that I wanted to be like, because, you know, have you ever seen the movie Boogie Nights, the Paul Thomas Anderson movie? He plays Scotty. And he's really in the background for a lot. He has like a big scene with Mark Wahlberg because he kind of has a crush on Mark Wahlberg's character, Dirk Diggler. And he's like drunk and he's like, Dirk, come out and look at my car. And he's, you know, and Dirk comes out, Mark Wahlberg. He's like, oh, Scotty, I love it. And he's like, can I kiss you? Can I kiss you? Because sometimes you look at me and I just like, I want to kiss you. And Mark Wahlberg's like, no, Scotty, no. And then he, you know, Philip Seymour Hoffman just like starts break down and crying. And he's like, I'm a fucking idiot. And he's able to access like such strong emotions. And up to this point in the film, Scotty has been this periphery character. Like he's in the background, just like eating pieces of cake. I mean, talk about a guy that fills out the background of a scene. If you go back and watch the movie Boogie Nights, any scene that Philip Seymour Hoffman is, no, seriously, do that this weekend because it's a great movie. Go back and watch every scene that Philip Seymour Hoffman is in the background, and he is doing something so amazing. We always call it, we used to call it business and acting. Like, what business are you doing? Like, what are you tying your shoe? Or you eating something? Or you smoking a cigarette? What business is your character doing? But he would always be doing something amazing in the background of a scene where I can watch that movie still. Like, if that movie comes on just randomly on like HBO or something, which now that I say that, I'm like, God, I watch everything on streaming. How is anything random coming on at all anymore? But back in the day, really before streaming, if you did have HBO or any of those pay channels, and if it would be on, I would just turn it on and I would get sucked in for the rest of the movie. But he would always just be in the background, and he was just such a fantastic actor. And he won the Best Actor Oscar for the movie Capote. And I just always think what he would be doing today, because we lost him, like 12, 13 years ago? It's been a long time. And he just did such fantastic flipping work. And one of my greatest regrets was he did a bunch of Broadway shows, and he was always into theater as well. But he did 2 shows that I really wanted to see. In 1998, I believe, he did a Broadway production of Sam Shepard's True West, and he did it with John C. Reilly. And this is like a 2-character play. And I think every other night they would switch characters. So John C. Reilly would play one dude and then one dude the next night, and they would switch characters. And I was like, oh my God, as a theater kid, like I was a theater kid, and I was like, oh my God, that's the coolest thing I've ever fucking heard in my life. I never got to see that. And then later in his career, he did a Long Day's Journey into Night, the Eugene O'Neill play. And I believe Andrew Garfield was in that and played his son. And I believe he won a Tony for that. And I heard that was just a phenomenal performance. And if you've read A Long Day's Journey into Night, I saw it once. I saw a production once in Arizona that knocked me off my ass. And I just couldn't even imagine Philip Seymour Hoffman playing the father role. But those were 2 things that I always regretted that I didn't get to see him perform live. But thank you for allowing me to just kind of go on these detours. anyways, he played a real life person in Almost Famous, this rock journalist and critic, Lester Bangs. And Lester Bangs was so respected in this. I mean, I think he's, to music lovers, he's still respected. There's a great Lester Bangs book that collects all of his written work through the years that I love. But he has this scene with William Miller, and William Miller in Almost Famous is the kid that goes on tour with the band. And the band was kind of an amalgamation of like Led Zeppelin and the Eagles, because Cameron Crowe, he was William Miller. He was a kid that went on tour with huge bands like Led Zeppelin because he was writing for Rolling Stone at an ungodly young age. So Almost Famous is a lot of Cameron Crowe's actual story. But this is towards the end of the movie when William Miller has been on tour and he has fallen in love and he's gotten rejected and he's kind of seen how the world works. And he calls up Lester Bangs in the middle of the night, and that played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. And he's this kid, and he calls him, and Lester Bangs, this is a little bit of the scene. He's like, "Oh man, you made friends with him. See, friendship is the booze they feed you. They want you to get drunk on feeling like you belong." So he's talking about like the band and all these people, is that these people will try to entice you. That's the booze, they want you to feel like you belong. And the kid's like, "Well, it was fun." And Lester is like, "Well, because they made you feel cool. And hey, I met you. You are not cool." And the kid's like, "I know, even when I thought I was, I knew I wasn't." And Lester Bangs says, "Well, that's because we're uncool. And while women will always be a problem for us, most of the great art in the world is about that very same problem. Good-looking people don't have any spine. Their art never lasts. They get the girls, but we're smarter." And the kid says, "I can really see that now." And Lester says, "Yeah, great art is about conflict and pain and guilt and longing and love disguised as sex and sex disguised as love. And let's face it, you just got a big head start." And William, the kid, goes, "I'm glad you were home." And Lester Bangs goes, "I'm always home. I'm uncool." And the kid goes, "Me too." And then this is the line that always just hits me right in the feels. Lester Bangs says, "The only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool." Think about that. The only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool. And so when I started this show, that's what it was like, what if we just share all the shit that we watch that moves us? And maybe you don't think of yourself as uncool. And maybe you are. Maybe you are the coolest person out there. And God, thank God, some cool people listen to this. But my God, I am not cool. And I think it's just amazing that we can share this stuff. And that we all, there's an audience for this, right? And then Lester Bangs ends the scene by saying, "My advice to you, I know you think these guys are your friends. You want to be a true friend to them? Be honest and unmerciful." Such a beautiful scene written by Cameron Crowe and just so good with Philip Seymour Hoffman in that scene. But I was thinking about that earlier tonight when I was thinking about Cameron Crowe after seeing that book. And it's so cool when you see something, you're like, "Oh, that book," and it kind of leads you down all of these different doors of your life. And then I've been thinking about Cameron Crowe for the last hour, which is so much more fun, you guys, than to think about Jax Taylor, or than to think about the Love Island kids, or to think about Travis Kelce, even though I love you, Trav. Did you see Travis Kelce did a GQ article today where he's posed in all of these really weird just truly horrific outfits? Sometimes I just want him to put a shirt on. I mean, I think he's a very good looking man, but I feel like we should button up. Some of these things, there's a lot of chest hair happening. He's not ripped, nor should you be. I was working out with my trainer today, and we had a fascinating discussion about Marvel actors and steroid use. And, it's like back in the day, you would see a strong man in the 30s or 40s. They're not all ripped up, They were lifting weights, lifting heavy things, building mass, They're not all cut up because they're not all roided out, And Travis Kelce reminds me of somebody that's not roided out. He's like just a strong dude that's good at football. And that has convinced Taylor Swift to love him for some reason. I don't know. But he seems like a fine, decent guy. And I hope to hang out with him someday. So let's talk a little bit more about Cameron Crowe, right? So he was born in 1957. His hometown was Palm Springs, California, and he was kind of like a really bright, shy kid, and he skipped 2 grades and graduated high school when he was 15 years old. His mom was a literature professor, and his father was a real estate agent. And at 15, he started submitting music reviews to the music magazines of note at the time, which were Rolling Stone and Cream magazine. And it caught the attention of Rolling Stone editor, the legendary Ben Fong Torres, which I believe he was played by Rainn Wilson in the movie Almost Famous. I think that's the case. So he started submitting reviews to Rolling Stone, caught the attention of the editor. And by the age of 16, Cameron Crowe was on tour with bands like Led Zeppelin, the Allman Brothers, the Eagles, and he was writing full pieces. Not just reviews, feature pieces, interviewing these, going on the road with these bands for Rolling Stone, right? And he was really known for like his intimate, observant, and really kind of fan-forward writing style. And he left music journalism at the age of 22. Like he was already burnt out. He was burnt out on music journalism. And I just listened to this audio book of this nonfiction book that came out a couple of months ago called High School Confidential by Bruce Handy. I should get this right in case anybody wants to check out this book. Confidential book. I should prepare notes, but I didn't plan on talking about Cameron Crowe, so forgive me. Okay, I was way off on that. The book is called Hollywood High, A Totally Epic, Way Opinionated History of Teen Movies by Bruce Handy. It just came out in May, and it is really kind of a oral history of teen movies. And really where they started and, kind of they grew in popularity or started around like the 1940s. And it takes you through that, but then it kind of leads you through like the John Hughes movies of like Weird Science, Breakfast Club, Molly Ringwald, and then Clueless, Rebel Without a Cause, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then the big chapter on Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which I loved. And it really took you kind of behind the scenes where Cameron Crowe went to a high school in Palos Verdes and went to the principal and said, here's my idea. He was tired of writing music stuff for Rolling Stone, and he had this idea of going undercover at a high school and going to classes, being a student for a year at this high school and just listening to how teenagers talked and ingratiating with them because he really didn't have a full high school experience himself. And then he wrote the book, Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which is out of print. And I had my best friend Dusty bought me, this is an impossible book to find, you guys. And he found me an original copy of Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's out of print by Cameron Crowe. And then my ex took it. Sometimes you lose things and you lose a lot of things in relationships, but sometimes like treasured possessions as well. And I was like, man, I wish they would reissue that book. So he went to this principal and said, hey, and the principal, you would think like, no way would a principal allow this to happen. But he was, like, oh, you write for Rolling Stone? And he was like, oh, how are the Eagles? Cameron Crowe was kind of impressing the principal with all of these stories of all of these celebrities, like the Allman Brothers. And the principal was like, oh, cool. And let him do this. And so that is like, he enrolled at this high school as a student. And the book, which then the movie was based on, directed by Amy Heckerling, who actually went on to direct Clueless. Most of that movie is directly based on characters that he went to school with for that year in high school. And he was only 22 years old. So this was adapted in 1982 into the film starring Sean Penn, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Judge Reinhold. I mean, just an amazing cast. And if you've never seen Fast Times at Ridgemont High, I highly recommend watching it. I think it still holds up. I was way too young when this movie came out, but I really appreciated it when I was a teenager. And I still think I watch it like every couple of years. So Cameron Crowe wrote the screenplay and Amy Heckerling directed it, but this really gave him a taste for the movie business. And then in 1989, he wrote his directorial debut, Say Anything, which is the John Cusack Ione Skye film. And John Cusack plays the iconic Lloyd Dobler. And Ione Skye plays, what is it, Diane Court? Is that her name? Yeah. And John Mahoney from Frasier is the dad. And this film is a cult classic, especially because the boombox scene. Now, kids, I don't think there's a lot of kids listening, but kids, there used to be a thing called a boombox. We didn't have phones. We didn't have phones in our hand, and we didn't have CD players, and we didn't have streaming. We had things called boomboxes, and you would put like a cassette tape in there, or you'd be able to tune in the radio. And there's this iconic scene where Lloyd Dobler, John Cusack, in the rain, is holding a boombox playing Peter Gabriel's In Your Eyes on it. In your eyes, the light, the heat, your eyes, I am complete. And Diane Court, Ione Skye's on her bed crying because, she won't talk to him and he's like so in love with her. It also comes off now that I think about it a little stalkerish, but it's very romantic. It's very beautiful. Now, a fun fact is that in that scene, the In Your Eyes Peter Gabriel song, it wasn't written as Peter Gabriel in Your Eyes. It was actually a song by the band Fishbone. And that was in the script, was the band Fishbone. And then they're like, no, this doesn't work. And then they found In Your Eyes after the fact. So even when they shot that scene, it wasn't In Your Eyes playing, which I always find so weird and disheartening, but what a great movie. And it was such an amazing directorial debut, right? And then in 1992, he did the film Singles, which is like a Gen X romantic ensemble film set in Seattle at the grunge explosion. And this was something Cameron Crowe had already noticed. He noticed bands like Nirvana and Mudhoney and Pearl Jam and Soundgarden. This scene was like fully burgeoning and he knew about it. And this film was made really right before that whole scene popped off, even though the film itself was released after the fact and kind of wasn't able to ride that wave as much as it should have. Matt Dillon is the lead singer of the band in that, and actually Eddie Vedder is in that as well. And Jeff Ament, the bassist for Pearl Jam, is in there. And also had cameos from Soundgarden and Alice in Chains. So that was in 1992. And then 1996, that was his big film. That was Jerry Maguire. So this was his biggest hit critically and commercially. And that was Tom Cruise, Cuba Gooding Jr., Show Me the Money, right? You Had Me at Hello, right? And you had the Bruce Springsteen song, Secret Garden. She's dead in your house, coming late at night, your secret garden. Remember that? God, that movie was all over the place in 1996. It was nominated for 5 Oscars, and Cameron Crowe won an Oscar for Best Original Screenplay. Now, my favorite Cameron Crowe movie is Almost Famous, and that came 4 years later in the year 2000. And to most people, this really is considered his magnum opus, his Fellini movie, if it were, And this also won an Academy Award for Best Original Screenplay. And it introduced us to Kate Hudson as Penny Lane, which, by the way, It's All Happening, Sheena Shea's iconic tattoo, is based on It's All Happening, the line from Almost Famous. Crazy how it all ties in. And then he didn't fall apart per se, but he did, 2001, he immediately did a film with Tom Cruise again called Vanilla Sky. And it's a psychological sci-fi drama remake of a Spanish film. It starred Tom Cruise, Penelope Cruz, and Cameron Diaz. And it's a real mindfuck of a film. It has a great soundtrack, great use of Radiohead's song Everything in its right place. And there's on the Vanilla Sky DVD, there's a great making of where Tom Cruise is all over it. Like Tom Cruise calling Cameron Crowe at 3 a.m. And you're just like, man, Tom Cruise really is just consumed with films. And Tom Cruise was dating Penelope Cruz at the time. So it was, I like the movie, but definitely a departure for Cameron Crowe. And then it was a weird. In 2005, he did the movie Elizabethtown, and which was a personal film about grief, family, and shoe designs. This was a weird film, and Ashton Kutcher was originally cast in this and had to get recast because I don't think Cameron Crowe loved his work in the film. And then in 2011, we got We Bought a Zoo, the Matt Damon and Scarlett Johansson film, where they bought a zoo. And then his last film is a movie called Aloha, which I had forgotten completely about, but it's Emma Stone and Bradley Cooper and Bill Murray. It is a very odd film that I had completely forgot. I mean, that happens as time moves on. You're like, holy shit, there was a film called Aloha that Cameron Crowe directed with Bradley Cooper, Emma Stone, and Bill Murray. And I was watching scenes from it, and I was like, I had forgot. I just completely Eternal Sunshine this film from my memory. But it's there, and this was his last film. And he's done a lot of other things. He's dabbled in TV. He wrote this great book, Conversations with Billy Wilder, the amazing director Billy Wilder, that I love. And done, many things. Also was working on a musical adaptation of Almost Famous, which premiered on Broadway in 2022, but closed very quickly, sadly enough. But now he's got this book called The Uncool coming out. And I am, Lindsay Lohan has a Lohanaissance. I want a Cameron Croweissance. I want to know what Cameron Crowe is. And by the way, now that I'm saying it, if anybody's listening out there that has a connection with Cameron Crowe, please reach out and say that Ryan Bailey wants to interview him for this show. I will read the hell out of this book. I will give him a damn good interview. I forgot how much I love this man. And it's so great to kind of go down memory lane and think about how many amazing things this man has been a part of. And I'm so curious at the stories that he has. So I'm so excited for this book. But thank you for allowing me to talk about something that I didn't think I was going to talk about at all. But maybe we can go and I'll watch Almost Famous together or Fast Times at Ridgemont High and kind of celebrate these movies. And that's what I challenge those Love Island kids to do. Make a movie, make something of substance that is more than just 6 weeks in a villa, even though that provided us with such great entertainment. It's no Almost Famous. Okay, let's talk about Bravo literature. So Bravolebrities have written so many books throughout Bravo being on the air. And we still have so many more coming out. I think we will see, obviously, I was watching The Valley and I was like, oh my God, Brittany Cartwright will definitely have a book. It'll be like Surviving Jax Taylor or Getting My Sparkle Back, Getting My Sparkle Time, Shots. That would be great if Brittany Cartwright's book is just taking the piss out of us and it's just called Shots, the Brittany Cartwright story. Brittany Cartwright will definitely write a book. Jax Taylor, I think I did a prediction a couple weeks ago that Jax Taylor will write some sort of self-help book for men, in the mind of Jax Taylor by Jax Taylor. But Jax Taylor has said he's going to write a book for many years now. And then at one point he said he was writing a children's book. And I'm like, dude, at this point, you couldn't even get a children's book done? We could write a children's book, just me and you right now within the next minute. Right? Like, how to, wipe your bottom. No, you know what? Now that I'm saying it, we probably couldn't write a book. That's where my mind went. And that's probably not a good children's book. Jax Taylor will probably write a book. We know that Carl Radke's book, Cake Eater, is coming out not until December. And I was like, was it always a December release? Because that's so, it comes out December 30th. And I'm like, wow, you didn't have the book ready for Christmas or the book ready in November for BravoCon? And his book is called Cake Eater. I was texting with Maritza about this today, about all the Bravo books. And the publication date is December 30th for Carl Radke's Cake Eater book. And I just feel like, man, you're missing the holidays. You're missing BravoCon. You need to bump that up. Are you rewriting the book? I feel like that should be much, much earlier release date. So we have that. Obviously, Craig Conover's already written a book. Shep has already written a book. I predict Shep will write a second book, but I thought it would be fun to go over a compiled list of all the Bravolebrities and their books. And I know I'm missing some of these books. In fact, Kristen Doty, remember, she wrote a book. What is her book called? He's Making You Crazy, I think it's called. And she had the unfortunate, it was really unfortunate. Her book got released when, I think right around the time Doty was getting, it got released and then it was optioned to make a movie out of. I'm not shitting you, a movie or a TV show. And then all of that stuff happened where she got fired from Vanderpump Rules and the project kind of died. But no, he's making you crazy. Is that... Sorry, you guys. I really am going to stroke out one day on the show. Her book was called He's Making You Crazy, How to Get the Guy, Get Even, and Get Over It. I would love to know what a book on Kristen Doty on actually finding love and motherhood. I think I could see Kristen Doty writing another book one day. But here are some books. And please, if I do not say a book that you're like, no, they had this book, let us know so we can actually put this into some sort of Excel spreadsheet so we can keep track. Because also for my reality show museum, I have a lot of these books, but I don't have all of them. And I feel like I need a complete collection of Bravolebrity books. So I think one of the most well-respected, and we just had an appearance from her on Watch What Happens Live last week, was Carol Radziwill. Her book, What Remains, a Memoir of Fate, Friendship, and Love. And this was, I believe, before she went on Real Housewives of New York. And the author photo on this book was taken by Ghislaine Maxwell, which we'll talk about in 1 second, but I'm not joking. There was a friendship there. We have Erica Jane's book, Pretty Mess, which was actually co-written by Brian Moylan, the amazing Brian Moylan. We also have Teresa Giudici, Turning the Tables from Housewife to Inmate and Back Again. Teresa's written a bunch, including cooking books. We also have Taylor Armstrong from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Her book was called Hiding from Reality, My Story of Love, Loss, and Finding the Courage Within. We have Kyle Richards' book, which I just got recently. I got a used copy on Amazon after I watched a season of Real Housewives of Beverly Hills a couple months ago. Her book, Life is Not a Reality Show, which I think we're due for another Kyle Richards book. And her sister, Kim Richards, she had a book that was already on Amazon for pre-sale that ended up not happening. And it was right around the time where she had gotten arrested for shoplifting, I think at a Target. She was going through some really troubling times. And I'll always be very sad because I was like, I want that Kim Richards book. Nene Leakes, the iconic Nene Leakes from Real Housewives of Atlanta, wrote the book Never Make the Same Mistake Twice, Lessons on Love and Life Learned the Hard Way. Melissa Gorga, copying Teresa. JK, I'm kidding. She wrote Love Italian Style, The Secrets of My Hot and Happy Marriage. Do you remember the scene in Real Housewives of New Jersey where Melissa is showing Teresa the copy of her book? Like the test copy, and Teresa's like, well, my brother's, why isn't my brother on there? Why isn't Joe on there? You know, like he's part of the reason the hot and happy marriage, and you don't put my brother on the cover? I thought that was hysterical. Caroline Manzo wrote a book called Let Me Tell You Something. Life as a Real Housewife, Tough Love Mother, and Street Smart Businesswoman. Phaedra Parks, man, I didn't even realize Phaedra Parks wrote a book. She has a book called Secrets of the Southern Belle, How to Be Nice, Work Hard, Look Pretty, Have Fun, and Never Have an Off Moment. A very succinct title there. Vicki Gunvalson, the OG of the OC, she has 3 books thus far. She has a book called More Than a Housewife. She has a book called Life After Work, Gaining Financial Peace of Mind in Retirement, and also a book called Let's Talk Money, Women's Guide to a Lifetime of Wealth. And then she has another book in pre-production called My Romance with Girth Brooks. Sorry. I always just love that Brooks got the Girth Brooks thing from the reunion that came out, that he called himself Girth Brooks. Oh, they don't make comedy like that anymore. She by Sheree Whitfield wrote Wives, Fiancés, and Side Chicks of Hotlanta. Great book title by Sheree. Carol Radswell also wrote another book, which we saw on Real Housewives of New York, called The Widow's Guide to Sex and Dating. They really tried to make Carol the Carrie Bradshaw, the Sex and the City. You know, they really tried to make Carol that in Real Housewives of New York for a time. Lisa Vanderpump wrote a book called Simply Divine, a guide to easy, elegant, and an affordable entertaining with Nicolaine. Teresa wrote the cookbook Fabulicious, Teresa's Italian Family Cookbook, and she wrote Fabulicious, Fast and Fit, Teresa's low-fat, super easy Italian recipes. I need to see if this is on Amazon. In fact, might need to pause this, but Alex McCord and Simon Van Kempen, I Am Real Simon Van Kempen, wrote a kid's book called Little Kids, Big City, Tales from a Real House in New York City. I had no flippin' idea. Okay, I found it. It's not a kid's book, you guys, but their kids are on the cover. And on Amazon, there's no new copies, but there is a used, and it says the condition is acceptable for $8.94. Do we pull the trigger on this right now as a baddie family? Should I buy this? $8.94, and then it'll probably, only one left in stock. It's $8.94 plus $3.99 in delivery. So that's what is that, $50? And it was written in 2010. I think I got to pull the trigger on this. One sec, you guys. Okay, folks, I am now the proud owner of Little Kids Big City by Alex McCord and Simon Van Kempen. It should be here in the next week. Wow, it feels like I got the Holy Grail. I have a original copy of the Declaration of Independence now. That's very exciting. I'll have to do an unboxing. Andy Cohen has many books. He has the Daddy Diaries. His first book was Most Talkative, Stories from the Front Lines of Pop Culture. And then, of course, Dave Quinn wrote an oral history of Bravo called Not All Diamonds and Rosé, the inside story of the Real Housewives from the people who lived it, which I love. Also check out Brian Moylan's book about the Housewives as well. Now, Erin Leachy from the Roni reboot, she has a debut cookbook that is set to drop October 28th. What month are we in? Right? We're in August. Okay, so that's coming up. It's called She's a Host. So Erin Leachy has a cookbook coming out October 28th. Now, we also have Aviva Drescher. Remember Aviva? Iconic, throwing the leg. I mean, one of the best scenes in reality. I just remember the night that episode of Real Housewives of New York aired, and she took off her leg and threw it, and there's that iconic shot of the fake leg on the red car at a restaurant in public. I always said if I had a time machine, I would go back to that night and eat dinner at that restaurant just so I could see it in person. I mean, truly, that was one of those moments where I was like, oh shit, they will do anything on these shows. So she has a book called Leggy Blonde, LOL. Bethany Frankel has many books, Skinny Girl Solutions, I Suck at Relationships, So You Don't Have to, and a book that I own and is signed by Bethany Frankel, A Place of Yes. Danielle Staub from Real Housewives of New Jersey has a book called The Naked Truth. Kelly Ben-Simone has a book called I Can Make You Hot, The Supermodel Diet. Leah McSweeney, or Voldemort, as I now refer to her, she has a book called Chaos Theory, Finding Meaning in the Madness, One Bad Decision at a Time. I actually read that book. Yolanda Hadid, Believe me, My Battle with the Invisible Disability of Lyme Disease. And one of the most iconic book covers of all time. Just Believe Me. Oh, I love that book cover. Stunning. What else do we have here? Shep Rose, obviously, his book is called Average Expectations, Lessons in Lowering the Bar. Craig Conover has a book called Pillow Talk, What's Wrong with My Sewing? And of course, Sheena Shea is the reason we're doing this segment, at all, because her book, My Good Side, a memoir just came out. Now, Sheena on her podcast Shenanigans just talked about the dagger symbol, which we talked about on this podcast. The New York Times bestseller list will sometimes have a dagger, which says there was a bulk sale sale. And sometimes they say that kind of rigs the New York Times bestseller chart. But as I pointed out to you guys, she was doing these live events where the ticket cost included a book. So I believe I was right. They talk about it on her podcast, but she was like, no, every one of those sales is a real, was sold to a real person. And I do believe that. But also, remember, this started with Stassi. Stassi Schroeder, she had daggers on the New York Times bestseller list as well. Lala Kent wasn't even on the New York Times bestseller list. But Stassi Schroeder has 3 books. Next Level Basic was her first one. And then she had Off With My Head and You Can't Have It All. That's her most recent one. You Can't Have It All, The Basic Bitch Guide to Taking the Pressure Off. So Stassi has written 3 books. Lala Kent's book was called Give Them Lala. A lot of books came out of the Vanderpump Rules. And then Classy AF Cocktails was the cookbook with Ariana Madix and Tom Sandoval. Ariana Madix also had a separate drink recipe book after Scandal. And the Basic AF book, Danny Pellegrino was the co-author of that as well. I have a copy. I bought my mom a copy. And over the pandemic, we made some of those drinks. I really have good memories with my mom and that book. So yeah, I remember that, some of the photo shoot, and they complained that the scenes that were filmed for the book and promoting the book were not highlighted in that season of Vanderpump Rules. Yeah, good stuff. And then Ramona Singer, the one and only Ramona Singer, has Life on the Ramona Coaster. I need to get that. I do not have Life on the Ramona Coaster at all. And that's from 2015. God, 2015. I thought it was much earlier than that. Heather Gay has 2 books. Bad Mormon was her first book, and then Good Time Girl. Brandy Glanville has 2 books, Drinking and Tweeting and Other Brandy Blunders. And her second book was Drinking and Dating, P.S. Social Media is Ruining Romance. Well, social media seems to have ruined a lot for Brandy over time. Now, Eileen Davidson, this is interesting. She has a mystery novel. Eileen Davidson from Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and soap opera fame. She has a mystery novel called Death in Daytime. And she has one called Dial Emmy for Murder, Diva Las Vegas, and Swingin' in the Rain. Swingin' in the Rain. That's wild. Swingin' in the Rain. I'm just blown away by some of these. Cynthia Bailey and Peter Thomas co-authored a book called Carry On Baggage, Our Nonstop Flight, which is a memoir of their marriage. They are no longer married. Tinsley Mortimer from Real Housewives of New York. She has a fiction novel called Southern Charm. I was not aware of that at all. Anna Kinkosis from Real Housewives of Miami. I got to meet her through Jeff Lewis and Doug Buden, and she is great. I think she's going to come on the show, and she hosts a podcast called Reality Court, I believe, which is supposed to be really good. And so go check that out. Anna Kinkosis has a book called Saber, A Passion for Cuban Cuisine, which she was talking about. Giselle Bryant from Real Housewives of Potomac has a book called My Word. Leanne Locken, haven't heard that name in a second, from Real Housewives of Dallas, has a book called What's Your Status? Finding Your Way to a More Positive Life One Day at a Time. Leah Black from Real Housewives of Miami has a book called Red Carpets and White Lies, a novel. Man, there are just so many books. My God. Lisa Rinna has a book called Renovation, Getting Your Best Life Ever by Lisa Rinna. This was written before she was on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. I have a copy of this book. And this is the book that her daughters, there was a scene in Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, remember, where they're talking about how they learned about how to give oral sex from their mom in this book. And I believe we did a dramatic reading on the Patreon one year from Renovation. I should do that again, actually. Renovation had some batshit crazy paragraphs in it. Lisa Rinna also wrote a book called The Big Fun Sexy Sex Book by Lisa Rinna and Ian Kerner. Notorious for her outrageous mouth, Rinna teamed up with sex counselor Ian Kerner to write the ultimate guide to mind-blowing sex. It even includes a 10-step plan guaranteed to rejuvenate anyone's sex life. I don't have this book. I didn't realize there was this book, and now I'm scared. Oh my God, you guys, she has another book called Starlit, a novel. What? Yeah. She wrote a novel called Starlit, and it tells the story of the red carpets, flashing lights, and glamour of being a Hollywood A-lister. This is a fiction novel, you guys. This is too much. I feel like I'm going to pass out. Oh, I left some Bethany Frankel books off. There's one called I Suck at Relationships So You Don't Have to. 10 Rules for Not Screwing Up Your Happily Ever After. She has a book called Naturally Thin, Unleash Your Skinny Girl and Free Yourself from a Lifetime of Dieting. And now Bethany Frankel's on TikTok, just like eating tuna salad and chicken salad and sour candy. We talked about the Skinny Girl Dish, Skinny Girl Solutions, Skinny Girl Cocktails, and then she has a book called Business is Personal, The Truth About What It Takes to Be Successful While Staying True to Yourself. She also has a novel, just like Lisa Rinna, a fiction novel called Skinny Dipping. The Associated Press said of this novel, the pace moves as fast as a Hollywood rumor, and the voice is all Bethany. Oh my God, you guys. She has a children's book, actually. Her dog, Cookie, rest in peace. Her children's book is called Cookie Meets Peanut by Bethany Frankel. Man, Bethany, I didn't realize she was as prolific as she was. Now, Countess Luann, even though she's supposed to write a second book, and that was actually highlighted on Real Housewives of New York, her first book was called Class with the Countess, How to Live with Elegance and Flair. God, I'm seeing the pictures. The pictures on some of these, the artwork, you guys, is mind-blowing. Heather and Terry Dubrow, they have a couple books as well. And their book is called Dr. and Mrs. Guinea Pig Present the Only Guide You'll Ever Need to the Best Anti-Aging Treatments. That's a real book. They have another book called The Dubrow Diet, Interval Eating to Lose Weight and Feel Ageless. And I have this book, and I got this book in Arizona at a Dollar Tree. I'm not joking. I was there with my mom, and I was like, that's an easy $1 to spend. I was like, yeah, I've got to get it. At the Dollar Tree, a Dubrow book. They also have a book called The Dubrow Keto Fusion Diet, The Ultimate Plan for Interval Eating and Sustainable Fat Burning by Heather and Terry Dubrow. I feel like that's a money grab. I feel like you already did the interval with the other book, but whatever. Jill Zarin, hello. She has a book called Secrets of a Jewish Mother, Real Advice, Real Family, Real Love by Jill Zarin, Lisa Wexler, and Gloria Kamen. Siggy Flicker from Real Housewives of New Jersey. She has a book called Write Your Own Fairy Tale, The New Rules for Dating, Relationships, and Finding Love on Your Terms. She has another book, said How to Be So Far Up Donald Trump's Ass. Kim Fields, who's on Real Housewives of Atlanta and also Facts of Life. She has a book called Blessed Life, My Surprising Journey of Joy, Tears, and Tales from Harlem to Hollywood. Lydia McLaughlin from Real Housewives of Orange County. She tragically lost her brother last year. She has a book called A Housewife's Guide to Faith and Happiness Beyond Orange County. Also, Kelly Ben-Simone, she had a couple books. I just said one book. She has a book called I Can Make You Hot, The Supermodel Diet, but she also has a fiction novel called A Dangerous Age. And the subheading of the book says, Hot Nights, Cold Drinks, Big Secrets, Bad Choices. Welcome to Summer in Manhattan. She also has another fiction novel called The Second Course, a novel by Kelly Kaloran. So she doesn't do Kelly Ben-Simone. She does Kelly Kaloran. That's her middle name. Dorinda Medley has a book called Make It Nice. I have that book. I interviewed Dorinda when that book came out. I enjoyed that book. Ebony K. Williams from Real Housewives of New York. She has a book called Pretty Powerful, Appearance, Substance, and Success by Ebony K. Williams. OG Real Housewives of Atlanta star Deshawn Snow has a children's book called The Rumor and How the Truth Sets You Free. She also has another book called Keeping Up with the Joneses and How Love is All You Need. She has another book called Taking Center Stage and How to Really Shine from Within. Kenya Moore, our beloved Kenya Moore, has a book called Game, Get Some, What Women Really Want by Kenya Moore. Portia Williams has a book called The Pursuit of Portia, How I Grew into My Power and Purpose. Real Housewives of Atlanta and Olympic gold medalist Sonia Richards Ross has a book called Chasing Grace, What the Quarter Mile Has Taught Me About God and Life. She also has another book called Run With Me, the story of a U.S. Olympic champion. Jacqueline Larita has a book called Get It! A beauty, style, and wellness guide to getting your it together. I should throw these all in some kind of AI and see, like, these are starting to all blend, these books. Denise Richards has a book called The Real Girl Next Door. Oh, God. Oh, my God. Monique Samuels from Real Housewives of Potomac, she has a book called Potty Training. It's called Potty Training Mommy and Daddy, a guide for introducing infant potty training as early as 6 months old. But I feel like I could probably pick up some tips from this as well. I feel like they shouldn't limit that to just kids. Dr. Wendy Osefo has a book called Tears of My Mother, The Legacy of My Nigerian Upbringing. This is, just books galore. I said this weeks ago, but like Bravo should have their own imprint so they can make money off these books as well. Like, and also, where's Kyle Cook's book, right? And also Giggly Squad, their book came out, Paige and Hannah's book, How to Giggle. That was a New York Times bestseller. I'm trying to think of who do we want books from? But I figure Britney's an easy one. I feel like we'll get a Sandoval book at some point. We'll get a Jax book at some point. We'll probably get another Ariana book at some point. Oh, I can't believe I would be remiss if I didn't say this. Miss Patricia Altschul from Southern Charm, she had a book in 2019 called The Art of Southern Charm. And it was like one part high society handbook, one part martini-fueled sass. And then she has a new book coming out November 11th of 2025. Now that is smart because that is right around BravoCon. And it's called Eat, Drink, and Remarry, Memories from a Lifetime of Art, Class, and Southern Charm. Oh, I can't. I love Miss Patricia. I can't. I hope there's many chapters on raising Whitney. Wouldn't it be great if there's a whole chapter on spanking Whitney? I had to spank Whitney, That was great. I was also looking at some of the facts. I have not read Ramona Singer Life on the Ramona Coaster, but I was looking at highlights from it. And Ramona, I guess, recounts a traumatic moment from her childhood when she brandished a knife at her abusive father, screaming, "Stop it right now, or I swear I will shove this knife into your neck." She says this rock bottom moment became a perverse superpower. She learned to block out the cameras on Roni because she'd already mastered ignoring the chaos at home. Holy shit. I have got to read Life on the Ramona Coaster immediately. Okay, folks, do you have a minute? Can you hang with me while I go to Amazon and order Life on the Ramona Coaster? Okay, let's hope for it. Ooh, okay. Now this is a little more expensive, you guys. It's $18.99. Ooh, there's a hardcover for $16.86. I think I got to do it, right? Do I got to do it? Maybe we'll do a book club or something. It's only one left in stock. I got to do it. And there's one used in good condition for $9.97, but I think I want the classier new. Okay, I'm just going to buy it. Fuck it. That's what credit cards are for. Okay, I did it. I spent $18.50. Okay, but I think it's worth it. And that's where we're going to leave it here today, folks. This was just a mess of a show, a bouillabaisse of a show, but I needed to just rant and be silly and not have it be Sherry Papini or The Valley or any of that stuff. But we'll do that on Thursday. Come back for a gigantic recap. I'm almost finished with the And Just Like That recap for the Patreon. That should be out at some point tomorrow. I got a doctor's appointment in the morning, and then I'll be able to release that and work on the Valley recap, and then Real Housewives of Orange County recap on Friday. So we got tons of stuff good coming up. So thank you for always supporting this. If you like the show, consider giving it a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And I hope you have the best Wednesday that you could possibly have. I will talk to you guys on Thursday. Bye.